Hey guys, it's Gabe here from Fly on the Line. Sorry I've been gone for a little bit of a while, been about 2 years. Sorry for that. I've just been really busy, been just a lot going on, moving and all sorts of different stuff. Anyways, I am back today, and today we are going to be tying the Master Splinter mouse fly. Now this is a really fun tie to do. It's super easy. Looks complicated at first, so don't be taunted by that. It definitely is a really fun fly to tie. It looks really nice. I've heard from a lot of different YouTubers. There's a bunch of videos out there about this, but I wanted to kind of do my justice to it just because I really like this fly. It's a very simple tie. Looks a little complicated. Is a little tricky at times, but for the most part, it's pretty simple. I've heard many different things that it's a very good fly for big brown trout and different things like that. Anyways, so for the materials you're going to be needing for the first part, the first thing you're going to need is the tail. So the tail is just a piece of Squrril strips, and you can get these from pretty much any fly shop. They look like that. I usually have to get the darker ones just because it kind of matches the tail of a mouse a little bit better. So what you're going to do is you're going to get one of those. The next thing you're going to need is just some regular brown craft foam. You can get this from pretty much any craft store. You can get it specifically for fly tying. It's just a little more expensive. I just cut a piece about this big. You can get a big old from a chunk of craft foam and just cut that out. Just about the size of the hook. You want to kind of have a little extra because when you're doing the fly, you're going to tie it in and then you're going to fold it over a couple different times for the fly. And so when you do that, you just need a little extra room. You kind of have to play around with it. It is a little tricky. There's no exact length. It kind of varies per fly and how much hair you have. And then the next part is this little fluff. So there's multiple things you can use for this. This is what gives the mouse a little bit of a body. So like when you ever see it, if you've ever seen a field mouse, just like that body. So what we personally use is it's muskrat hair. We personally got the whole skin at the fly shop. And my dad cut strips of this, and he just used the razor blade. Not the prettiest job in the world, but he did a good job. Thank you, Dad, for doing that. And cut some good strips, good size length. And he just cut a bunch of them, and so we just have a ton of these for our flies we tie. And then the next thing you're gonna need is just the hook, and the hook we're gonna be using size 2 fly hook, and it's usually I've used a hook around the size, definitely a lot smaller. This is quite a big hook for the sponge spider, and you can also, some people use these for caddises. There's a bunch of different uses for this type of hook. This is just a oversized one for the mouse, and then you just need a flat eye. That's all you need. So that's all you're going to need. Besides your line, you can choose pretty much any color, just like a light tannish gray, just to kind of go with the color of the mouse, is what usually works best. Okay, so to start this off, we're just going to take our line, and we're going to wrap it around from from the eye. It usually is a little exaggerated just because of the size of the hook, but you are going to need a lot of space because you're going to have, as you see in the fly right here, the foam kind of goes over the eye, and so that's just the trickiest part. Sorry about that. There we go. Okay, so we're just going to start out, wrap it back. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect and even. So you're going to wrap it back just over this curve of the hook right here. So you're going to kind of stop about there is probably good. Just only because you want to cover, because it's such a big hook, you need a lot of room, but also you need, because of the tail, the way it comes off, it's going to come off that way. So just go ahead, come back, snip that real quick. Then we're just going to give it a couple wraps. We're going to give it quite a few wraps just to get the base of the hook, just because we need a little bit of grip, only because of how much stuff is going on here, because it's quite a big fly. So you're just going to kind of give it a base just to give it a little bit of traction. Kind of go crazy, not too much, not too little. Okay, so we're just going to stop right there, kind of a little over halfway from the eye. It's just a little back. And now what we're going to do is, what we're going to do is we're going to take one of these Squrril strips, and depending on how much length you want the tail, that's how big the tail is going to be, because you want it to, this is the same size hook, by the way. You're going to have it kind of come off a little farther, so just kind of way back here, and this just gives it that little tail, and then this little bit is going to give it that kind of mouse-ish look. So then what you're going to do is, you're going to take a little strip, just a little longer, so probably about like that big, and you're just going to take your scissors, you're going to strip that right there, snip that, so then you got your little strip. Now what you're going to do is you're just going to take your fingers, and you're going to strip all of this fur off all the way to about back here, just to give it that little end of the tail right there. So we'll just go ahead and do that real quick. Just taking all that fur off. You can leave a little bit of the fuzz. Sometimes it'll help give it a little bit of traction, like when you're tying it in. So you can take all that off. And then right as you're coming to the end, you'll see all the fur's pretty much gone. Just have a little bit on the end, and you're just gonna pull that way. So then you have that little bit, sorry, getting off the camera, right there, just that little bit right there, and you can kind of push that back, so then you have that little bit of fur, and that's gonna look really nice in the water. So now what you're gonna do is, you can take pretty much any black permanent marker, it won't come off. Right here you just have a black permanent marker, and you can just take it on some, like what we did is on some of our black foam, because it's not going to really matter for any of our flies. You're just going to color that black. You can either do it at the beginning or at the end. I'm just going to do it at the end just to show you how to do it after I tie this on, and that'll just make it video go a little faster. So now what you're going to do is, you're going to tie this in. You can adjust the length depending on how much, like how big of a tail you want it. So I'm going to have it like right there, just to give it a little bit of a tail. I'm going to tie that in. Make sure it doesn't, try your best not to have it curl over. It's kind of curling over for me a bit right now. So you're just going to kind of cinch that down as tight as you can. Straighten it out. So you want to have it come right off that back of the tail, the back of the fly, just to give it that nice motion. It doesn't really matter where this is. It can be upside down kind of. You can fix that yourself depending on how you like it. So you're just going to wrap that in, just kind of cinch it in. Adjust your line. Make sure it's tight. Get a couple wraps like that. Okay, next part, we're just going to go like that. We're going to set that there. So next we're going to take this foam, and the best way to do this is, you're going to want to have it, if you previously watched, or I'm pretty sure I posted it, the video of a beetle. It's a really fun tie. So what you're going to do though for that is, you're just going to cut kind of like a pointed arrow, and this kind of just lets it kind of tie in, because it's such a big amount of foam. You're gonna have to kind of cut it back a little bit, and so then what you're gonna do, so let's see kind of how this, it doesn't really matter how perfect it is or not, you're just gonna lay that right there about the same length of the tail, like when it comes to like where it's laying. And the best way to measure it out is, so you take your fingers and just hold it there, and you're going to bend it just past the tail, because that's how it's going to work kind of. And you're just going to take this, curve it over the eye, and so just that kind of get an idea of how big it is. And so that's how big you're going to want it. And you're just going to have that, you can adjust it based off of how big of foam you cut or whatever. And the next part, we're just going to take the foam, we're just going to cinch it in. Kind of go slow depending on how, like, if you have really like strong, tight string, then you're gonna wanna, you can go kind of tight on it. I have a little, like, kind of not as strong string. I don't know the differences for most of them, but I know there is stronger line. So you're just gonna kind of tie that in, get that this helps kind of give it a little bit of a body, just kind of bulk it up a little bit. So you're just gonna kind of cinch that in the best you can. And we are good. Okay, so there we go. So you're just gonna leave that kind of hanging off the back. You're gonna take your line, just kind of wrap it up a little bit. Doesn't matter how far, probably about right there. just because the next part, you're making that this big old fluffy body for that fly. That's what gives it that mouse look. So now what I'm gonna do, I just have one of my strips here that we cut, and it depends on the size of your fly, how big the fur is, just like how long it is. Mine's pretty decently long. It's probably gonna be a really fluffy fly. Most of the master splinters I've seen don't usually use muskrat hair. We kind of like this just because it gives it that fuller body like an actual mouse, and so when it's in the water it looks more fluffy and more, I don't know, realistic to a field mouse. So you're just going to take your strip, probably measure it in, just not as big maybe as the foam, and you're just going to come back, wrap that in, like so. There we go. There you go, just kind of. Okay, now what you're going to do is, so you just have your line back here, so tie it up a little bit, and then go back and stop it right about there. And you can kind of go maybe a little bit farther, just depending, because you still need a little room for your eye. So the next part we're going to do, so you're just going to take this strip. What you're going to do, so this part's a little tricky, it takes a little bit of practice. You're just going to wrap it around this way. And what you want to do is you're going to wrap it, when you wrap your the strip, you can kind of see here this little spot where it ends, and you're going to want to wrap it next to it. So kind of just leaving that little bit of a space, kind of that line. And the best way to do this is just to kind of pull it back every time you do it. So hold back that hair, and then wrap it. This will take a little bit of practice. It's a little frustrating at first. And so you just keep kind of wrapping it right next to each other and just pulling it back. And so you're going to kind of come down right there. That's probably about good. So you're going to leave that little bit of space in front of the eye. So now you're just going to kind of wrap it a little bit, just wrap that fur. So you're going to just take your line. So what you're going to do, so you have it in front right here, right? You're going to take it back like this. Just kind of cinch it in. So I went around. So I'm going to go around this and to the front like that, and then just give it a couple wraps. And so you're going to repeat that a couple times. You can kind of go to the back and then cinch it up a little bit. And this kind of just lets it kind of set in. You just kind of get it all in there. Really want it tight in there so it doesn't fall off. So hopefully you're going to be catching some big fish with this. So you can kind of give that a look. How it should look. It looks really fluffy right now. So the next thing you're going to do, so you're just going to take that, you can pull that hair back just a tad. And you want to take some duller scissors just because these strips are a little thicker. So you're just going to kind of cut that close as you can without trimming any of the fur. I think I might have caught a couple furs in there. There we go. Anyways, so that's good. Now you're going to do, just because it takes forever to get this fur here, you're going to want to take your finger. You can take your finger, or if you have a half hitch tool, I can pull one of those up real quick. Just do a couple half hitches. Oop, messed it up there. You just kind of whip a couple of those out. Here's what a half hitch tool looks like. You can get these on the end of a whip finish. Just wrap it around there. Pop it on. This eye is a little big, so you kind of have to like slide it off and then pop it. That's why I recommend using your finger. All right, cool. And then you don't trim it. That's just to secure it. Just make sure it doesn't fall off. Now what you can do is what I have used, but you can also use different tools or many different things. I have like a little like mustache comb, or I'm not sure where my dad got this at. Probably get it like a craft store, dollar store, or just online. You can kind of comb like these to the side. It is really not necessary. I'm just showing it because why not? But you can just kind of push these to the side, You want to kind of get an even split between. So here, I'll give you a look at that. Here's what it should look like. Just kind of that even split down the center of it. So you have that kind of like pressed down, like apart, almost like if you're doing your hair. There you go. You got that little part. So then you take this foam, you're gonna kind of wrap it, you're gonna lift it up, so then at the end of, I'll show you the end on this one. On the end of that fly, you kind of have it just bent over, and you want to kind of have it very flat, not like kind of curled, just to kind of give it a little shape. So then what you're gonna do, you're just gonna take this, your line, and depending on how tight your line is, just because the foam usually is a little like thicker, you're gonna want to kind of just slowly cinch it down. Just slowly, every time you wrap it, a little tighter of a wrap. Just a little tighter wrap every time. That's probably good. And then maybe give it a couple wraps in the front. There you go. That's probably good. So then just fix the hair. Give it a, I'm just gonna get one more wrap. There we go. Perfect. Alright. So you have that there, you have that piece out. Now what you're gonna do is you're gonna take the foam, fold it back like this. Then you're gonna have, you want it to cover just over the eye. So you kind of see the eye is right here. You want to have it just over it. That's the idea. So that's about where you're gonna want it. So then you're just gonna come over, try not to get any of the hairs caught. You're just gonna kind of pull it down. Same idea. Make sure your line's tight. Same idea when as you're wrapping it is the same wrap as you did on the first time you wrapped. Well, it's technically second time, but first time you wrapped your foam up here. Give me a nice tight wrap while holding everything back. There you go. Got all that tied in. You have that little dangly piece up here. I'll get to that in a second. So you have everything tightened up right there. Now what you can do is, so when my dad cut this, the muskrat, we got like a ton of fur that just fell out. You can see here, we got it all. And you can use just gray dubbing for this, but what we do is just to make as much use as we can with the fur, is we use that. And so what you're gonna do is you're gonna use this as dubbing. So you're just gonna take your like a little bit of wax, or you can just wet the line with like your saliva or something like that, or just a little bit of water, whatever you prefer to use. Then you're just gonna take the little bits of fur or whatever you have or dubbing, spin it around the line. And if you want to make your own dubbing, like you can get some craft yarn and stuff and do that. I have a separate video on how to make dubbing that shows you everything to do. Use a coffee machine. It might sound kind of weird, coffee grinder. So you can do that. So after we're done getting all that dubbing on there, just pull back your fur a little bit because you do not want to get it caught. It looks a little weird. So you're just going to wrap it up. And this kind of just gives it a little bit of fuzz. That. Now what you're going to do is, I have a little bit too much space in front of my eye, so what you can do is just give it a little bit of dubbing right there, because you definitely want a lot of space in front of this eye. It might seem a little extreme, but you're going to want to tie this off a ton, because if you're going to be catching big fish, hopefully with this, then you're going to need more. Alright. So you're pretty much almost done. Now what you're just going to do is, what I do is just do a couple of those half hitches. And just kind of, you want to get that under that eye. Make sure you don't get it caught on your phone. I just like to do a bunch. There we go. So I did a bunch. It really doesn't matter. Recommend maybe like minimum 6 of that. Then what you're gonna do, take your whip finisher. I have a whip finishing video that you can go look at. I'll leave the link in the description below. Same to my dubbing video, so I'll leave the link in the description so you can go check that video out. Now what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your whip finisher, give it a couple whip finishes, make sure you pull the head back. Ooh, messed up there. Make sure you keep your line tight for the whip finish. This is the toughest part. There you go. Just give it a bunch of whip finishes. Just gonna tie that off quite a bit. Maybe let out a little bit of line. There you go. Just tighten that up. Now, pretty much done. Just go in, cut that line, just right there, close as you can. Now what you're gonna do is, so you're pretty much almost done. The next step is to give it some ears. So from a couple of videos I've heard about and seen, they recommend doing the ears, mainly because I guess it works really well with the trout. And so this is what your end product's gonna look like. And right now, nowhere close to that. So what you're just gonna do is what I'll show you is you're just gonna snip right along this center. But what you're gonna do is you're just gonna cut, stand up for this, sorry. You're gonna cut just right there, that's probably about good. And then you're just gonna go and go right down the center of your fly. So right there. Make sure not to snip the inside of this foam. So then that gives it a little bit of ears. You want to get it close to the thread without cutting the thread. My dad did that once, I believe, and did not end up well. There we go. Give 2 little ears. You kind of want to, so what you're going to do from here too, is kind of just spread those ears out a little bit, because you get the trout to notice that since that works well. So you have those ears spread out, full body's tied. You quick look at that. Got that nice little tail. And then the final step, I have 2 final steps. Take your black marker. Usually a permanent marker is what I recommend. And you're going to color this whole thing. You can get a little bit of the foam black, it's okay. Because mousing is usually done at night. Or in the evening. Because mouse are going to come out in the day. That's not smart. So you're just going to color all of that extra skin in of that tail. Boom. That's it. It doesn't have to be completely black. There can be some white spots. Best if it's permanent, like just that dark black. It'll look really good. So that's pretty much it. The last little step I recommend, just because depending on how thrashed this mouse is going to get from a big fish, hopefully, is to take, I have some Sally Hansen's, in some of my previous videos I've shown this. It's just a little fine tip applicator, and I just got some Sally Hansen's. This is what I recommend. It's like nail polish coating, but it works really well. I know Tim Camisi uses it, who's a pretty popular fly tyer. And so what you're just gonna do is get some of that. Get a little bit. I just get a little bit at the top, just to get all in those fibers. Let that sink in. A little between the ears, just to keep those ears in place. Might be a little excessive, but I mean, it's better to be safe than sorry. Then just take that and go right where you tied all that dubbing and stuff on that line, just to get that tightness nice and safe. And that'll help give it that kind of stiffer head, hopefully. And then, just in case that line does get clogged up from all that glue, so you don't have to deal with this when you're out in the water. You can take one of these little things. You can get them at any fly fishing shop for the most part, unless they don't sell them, which I'd be surprised. Or just online, and just clearing out that eye, just to make sure there's no glue. And then you can get these, a lot of like different, like there's like fishing nail clippers you can get that will have those on them. So if that does happen in the field, then you're covered. So that's pretty much it. Here's one last look at the fly. Bottom should be pretty fluffy. In the water, it'll look really nice because it's so like movie. It'll like look really nice in the water. So that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share this video to all your friends. Hopefully we can get a bunch of likes on this. Thank you guys. I'm sorry again for being gone for so long. I'll leave the list in the description and the links to some of the videos I talked about in the description below. You can go like and subscribe down there, and that'd be awesome. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Gabe Serban from Fly on the Line. Thank you guys so much. Bye.